don't know if you can hear it in the background, but the cicadas are out, which usually means it's the end of summer is coming, but still a few more hot days. It's now cooling down. It's 5:30 and I'm just sitting here with a fan on. I hope that's not bothering you, but frankly I can't sit here without some kind of something. It's in the lower 30s, I think, maybe a bit cooler now. Anyway, enough of the weather report. I wanted to talk about 3 ways that you can go from a finished manuscript to a published book, or self-published book. I'm thinking about it because I helped, now a friend of mine, Martin Frid, who had published before for a traditional Japanese publisher, Kodansha. I think he did a guidebook or something, or something for tourists related, non-fiction, but he's never written, hadn't published or written anything in fiction. And he finally finished writing a fictional novel, of course. Almost all novels are fictional, but it's based on a true historical event. Anyway, he wrote the manuscript. I think he's had it around for a while and tried to get it published traditionally, and there weren't any takers because what he's written about is pretty niche. So finally he bit the bullet and said, well, I want to get this darn thing published this year. And I said, well, I can help you. And I applied my skills for what I know and helped him publish his novel. He's the copyright holder and the self-published owner. I helped on the editorial and the publishing side and streamlined it. But he's the complete owner, and I was just the paid monkey, the text monkey, that helped him make it happen. And here, without further ado, is the book. If you have a look, it's called Kamikaze to Croydon, and it looks pretty nice, I think. And a little bio there. I'll talk about it in some detail. There's 3 aspects I wanted to talk about. There's the editing process, the formatting process, and the cover. And those are the 3 basic elements that turns what's just a Word file manuscript into an actual real book. I don't want to spend a long time talking about the editing process. I did a previous video about that. If you look for that, the previous video in this series is all about that, the 3 stages of 3 different kinds of editing. And I talk about that. Just to say, in the editing process, one big change that I made, he originally had, I think, just 12 chapters, and I said, the story needs to be broken up a bit more. And he had about, I think, about 50 different scenes in the finished book, and I said, well, let me give titles for each scene, and we'll turn each scene into a small chapter, so like a 4 or 5 page chapter. It's a 70,000 word book. And one of my thinking, well, there's two reasons for that. One is the book is set in 1937, and it's I felt, or we both felt, it would be kind of cool to give it a retro feel. So everything about the book is kind of retro feel. And one of the things they used to do if you read an Agatha Christie whodunit or whatever, is every chapter has a kind of headline, a title in there. And I wanted to do that to replicate the same style. I'll show you in a moment what I mean. Well, I'll show you right now. Look, here's one here like this. So it's got a little chapter in there. And another reason I wanted to do that was it added a little bit of drama. Each chapter heading is not a summary of what's going to happen. It's a little hint at some kind of action. And hopefully putting a bit of mystery in there, which forces you to read. Oh, what does he mean? Like, so that one I just got at random. Something has to give. It's kind of vague, but it hopefully makes the reader want to read on. Anyway, that's all I want to say about the editing. There's a lot more to say about the 3 kinds of editing process. Look at that video if you're interested. So there's the editing. That was done. Then there's the formatting, which is scary for many people, and they pay large amounts of money to people to go off and do the mysterious technical putting it through HTML and making it into an e-book or a print book. And I used to go through that as well, and it's frankly a right pain to do it well. until I discovered Vellum. Paul Teague, who has a podcast, and Joanna Penn often go on about Vellum, but particularly Paul Teague, he says, just buy Vellum, and frankly he's right. Vellum, it costs at the moment, as of recording this, I think it's about $250. That's 30,000 yen. Well worth it though, because if you pay the full price, it will not only lay out your book, your manuscript, taking your Word file and turning it and formatting it so that it prints really nicely on other ebooks on for Amazon and for Kobo and iBooks and anybody really. Not only does it do the e-file, which is fairly straightforward, it does the print file as well, which when you make a print book, if you self-publish a print book, what you're doing is you're making a PDF, and that's where you actually need quite a lot of skills. And I've sort of replicated PDFs and I've made them to the best of my ability, and there's a lot of trial and error and trying to work out. Oh, just playing a little tune in the background. They do that to tell the kids to go home. This is Japan. Off in the distance, can you hear? Anyway, where was I? It can be a right faff getting the right size of the text, and so that it looks good. And of course, left-hand pages are slightly to the left, and right-hand pages are slightly to the right of the margin. They're not true centered. These little things you learn when you try and make it yourself, and they're a right bugger to get right, and to get the on one side it has the has the name of the book, and then on the other the chapter heading. Little things like that, and a little bit of artwork. Oh, and of course the drop caps are so fiddly if you do it manually yourself, which I have done up until I bought Vellum. And Vellum, you upload the file. The one little problem I had with it was it didn't seem to recognise where the chapters were. But I went into the and I realised it was because I didn't have page breaks in the Word file. So I went through and re-imported it from the Word file with page breaks, and there was no problem. So a little tiny teething problem. But then it recognised where all the chapters were, and then you can just set what kind of style you want. I decided I wanted a 1930s style Baskerville text and a three-line drop cap. I wanted this kind of artwork. It also puts in little flowery, little fancy bits between text where you'd put like three asterisks. You can change it to that. If I'd wanted it to look more modern, I could have a different range of typefaces to pick from and different styles. But I deliberately modelled this on a sort of Agatha Christie style. So, and you just import the file, and then it gives you a title page, my company name, Tower English. Although this is self-published, and Martin J. Fried owns all the rights. It looks nicer. Or he wanted to have. He wanted me to publish it, and I said, "Well, I'm not publishing it. You have the rights. I will help you publish it." And a little bit of free advertising for me is I just put a little logo there, and there's a link to my blog website. That's all I did from it, and that's all I will get out of it. I get no profits from this. He's paid me. I'm just a hired hand. But I wanted to show this to you, and I hope to do more of this, maybe for other people if they're interested. Anyway, so I used Vellum, and it's really good. And if he wants to publish it on Amazon or any other vendor, or from his own website at some point, I'll send him the files, and he can do that. In Vellum, you just click, and it will produce a perfectly formatted file for print. And it does the table of contents, which is always a bugger. It automatically populates the table of contents, which was a right bugger because there's 50 chapters here, all with subheadings, and it sorted it out for me. So I did the editing, and then I did the formatting using Vellum, which took a lot of pain out of the whole process. And then I made the cover for him as well. Martin's doesn't really have any idea how to do the cover, and we're kind of doing this a little bit on the cheap, but high quality. So I said, well, look, I'll make you the cover. This is the cover, and it's one file actually. It's one, if you imagine that's the whole file, that's what it looks like. I'll just talk about some of the elements of the cover. Of course, well, I started with a background, a blue that tapers to yellow. The reason for this is we wanted to give it a 1930s feel, and these are the sort of watercolour type colours that they often used in 1930s advertising and pamphlets. And I saw some artwork from the 30s advertising Japanese tours and tourism, and they used these kinds of colours. So I thought, okay. Of course, it has the red sun, so hopefully that tells the reader it's about Japan. It's not the true red; it's a slightly off red, because I didn't want to make it directly militaristic, although it is part of that. The aeroplane I got from 123rf.com, stock art. It's a Mitsubishi Zero, but and Martin's. See, the people who are going to read this book are probably aviation fanatics, and Martin said, "Well, that's not actually. It's not the earlier plane that they flew to London had a sort of a larger casing, so I had to sort of manipulate that with. I put it in there. I made the engine casing a little bit fatter than it really is on the silhouette. I just sort of duplicated it and made it bigger. Normally I wouldn't bother, but I think the readers are very pernickety. We'll go into that in a bit more detail in a moment. Called it Kamikaze to Croydon. Originally it was called Kamikaze to London. And going through the story, I thought, actually, it's all about flying to the Croydon aerodrome. I should have said what it's about. It's a record-breaking attempt to fly from Tokyo to London in under 100 hours, and it's based on a true story. That's the really kind of cool thing. So they flew to Croydon, and one reason for calling it Croydon, not London, was Martin's going to try and get the gift shop at the Croydon Museum or Aerodrome to buy it. And it goes back to the who do we think the readers are going to be for this? And obviously would love it to be a great bestseller, but probably it's going to go through the aviation circles, people who are really keen on aviation and aviation history. So that's why we went for a historical sort of look. This is another website that if you're designing your own page is very useful, is Pixlr. Pixlr.com. They have a very expensive, difficult system. Well, maybe not difficult, but complicated software, for page design. But they have a cheapo Express version that does a lot of stuff, and you can use for free. And that's what I used. It's got quite a wide selection of good fonts. This is called Limelight, and it, as you can see, looks like a 1930s or 1920s Art Deco kind of thing, which actually features in here. They talk a lot about Art Deco in the book, so it kind of fits. I also put the other artwork. Yeah, I got the clouds and the aeroplane from 123rf.com, and if you look carefully, you can see the sort of the mimicking of the Japanese imperial flag, and that was from Pixlr. You can get that and superimpose it over your image. So I did that. I also wrote the blurb, and I thought it needed something on the front. I was a bit worried that it might look a bit like a love story, which there is a love story in there. On my behest, I said it needs more lovey-dovey stuff, and it might look a bit too feminine, especially as I put on the paper. If you can see here, I put a sort of watermarky type thing, a nice little pattern, sort of Japanesey pattern. I thought, well, maybe that's a bit feminine. And it might be misleading, so I put in a text along here which talks about the story, which is a novel based on the thrilling true story of two friends who tried to break the last great aviation record before the world goes to war. And that's a two-line summary of the story and some of the themes that are in the book. Anyway, that's now on sale. I don't really have any more to say about it other than the next great journey is how to market the book. As I say, the marketing affected the title, and we'll see how well the cover does with the aviation crowd. It's historically accurate, but does it attract the right kind of readers? I don't know. We'll find out. Watch this space. But anyway, those are the three elements that you need for getting your book from manuscript to real book.